Does this sound familiar? You have a new goal you're focused on, like say you want to learn some new skills. The first few days feel amazing, and you're working hard at it, but then you kinda lose motivation. You start taking a few days off here and there, and before you realize, you stop working towards your goal. This has happened to most of us, and even though we all know being consistent is the best way to achieve our goals, it's hard to be consistent. This video will go over how to be consistent in 4 simple steps so you can achieve your goals. Before we start, we have to figure out why people struggle to be consistent and give up at some point before they reach their goals. The biggest reason why this happens is because you are fixated on the outcome instead of the process. At some point, you start realizing how far off your goal is, and you start losing motivation and start taking days off. I'm not trying to say the outcome isn't important, because the outcome is important, but what I'm trying to say is that when you only focus on the outcome instead of the journey, it's easy to lose motivation and stop being consistent. Any outcome that is compelling enough to excite you means that the goal won't be easily achieved and will require lots of hours. If you don't enjoy the process and you're not focusing on it, you will be quitting at some point. Now, here are the steps to help you be consistent. Step 0. Make sure you know what your goal is and how you'll accomplish it. I have this as step 0 because you should know this stuff, and I want to talk about goals a little bit in this video. You should have your desired outcome, goal milestones, and know how to achieve it. Let's do a vague example. Let's say the desired outcome is to learn how to code. The goal milestone could be to create a project in 30 days. The way you achieve that goal could be to learn your language of choice for 2 to 3 days and to work on your project 2 to 3 days a week. If you don't have all 3 and you're struggling with your goals, you now know your problem. Step 1. Be ready for the plateau or dip in progress. A lot of people think reaching their goal is a linear journey, but that is never the case. Anything worth pursuing will have a messy middle of the journey, where your progress will flatline or even dip lower. The middle is where all the quitters quit, but quitting itself isn't always a bad thing. For example, let's go back to the coding example. If you quit because coding doesn't excite you and you don't want to code as a hobby or career, that's a good thing because you won't be wasting your time. If you still think your goal is worth pursuing, please don't quit. Just know that after a while, you won't be progressing as fast as you did when you first started. Don't get discouraged because you're not progressing that fast. Step 2. When you're working towards your goal, be in the present moment. You want to be fully engaged at the task at hand, so you won't be dealing with distractions, especially your own thoughts. We all can have negative thoughts and worries when we start working towards a goal, like, what if this doesn't work out? Or, is this even worth my time? If you constantly deal with those thoughts when you're working towards your goal, you're not going to have a good time. If you're not having a good time, you will quit. Be in the present and be fully engaged in the task at hand, and hopefully you can enjoy yourself and enjoy the process. Step 3. When you're not feeling motivated, give yourself a small time frame to work on your goal before thinking about taking the day off. The time frame I would suggest is 10 minutes. There's a lot of days where I don't want to do any work, but then I force myself to work for 10 minutes. 10 minutes isn't a lot of time, so your mind will be accepting and go to work. If you can get in a rhythm, you can continue working and you're now in a good spot. If you're still out of it and you didn't get much work done, that's fine. The important part is that you at least put in some work and then fully take the day off. If you do this every time, you can get in a good rhythm and you will have more days where you're motivated than days where you don't want to do anything. As for the time frame, I like 10 minutes, but you can have a longer time frame. I recommend anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. The point is to have a small time frame so your brain is willing to accept and start working. And if you can get in a good flow, you can keep working towards your goal that day. Step 4. Find someone to hold you accountable. We are often a bad judge of our own behavior. We accept weak excuses and take days off because that's the easy path. If you can find someone you trust to hold you accountable, you will be more consistent. You ideally want to report your progress to that person daily or weekly, depending on what your goal is. If you slacked off, you will have to report that too, and it feels pretty bad to express your lack of action to someone else. That psychological pain you feel will make you want to be consistent and stay on track. As humans, we care more about showing others that we are productive and consistent than showing ourselves that we are productive. Having someone aware of your behavior makes you want to be your best. You might be tempted to skip this step because you might not be able to find someone, but try your best not to skip it because it can really make you consistent. What are some goals you're working on? Leave a comment below and check out the video shown on the end screen if you enjoyed this video and want more content.